If you had told me, even a season ago, that the women of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City would become the unlikely fulcrum of America's cultural conversation, I might have believed you. After all, we've seen scandals that could freeze the Great Salt Lake itself. But this past week was different. This wasn't just reality TV drama. This was a masterclass in chaos, a perfect storm where the worlds of politics, elite Hollywood, and viral social outrage collided, with three women from Salt Lake City standing squarely in the eye of the hurricane. It was a week that began not with a whisper, but with a gavel. A week where a snub in a crowded room spoke louder than any scream, and a week where a simple, icy accessory would ignite a firestorm hotter than the Belmont's hottest take. This, my friends, wasn't just a week in the Bravo universe. This was RHOSLC's wildest week, and we are about to unravel exactly how Angie Katsanevis, Bronwyn, and Ariana managed to set the entire internet on fire. Angie K, from the beauty room to the hearing room. Let's start with perhaps the most surreal image of the week. Angie Katsanevis, our beloved Greek goddess of Salt Lake, sitting in the hallowed halls of the United States Congress. Now, for our audience who remembers a time when television was 3 channels and politics stayed on page 6, this might seem astonishing. And it is. Angie wasn't there to testify about beauty supply chain issues or the ethics of a good glam squad. No, she was there as a guest, observing a hearing on a matter of deep personal significance, likely tied to her family's story and heritage. Think about that journey, from the heated debates of a Friendsgiving table to the historic, weighty debates of a congressional committee room. It's a leap that defies every expectation we have for a housewife. This is where the narrative we think we know gets flipped on its head. For years, we've been sold the idea that these shows are just frivolous entertainment, a distraction. But what Angie did, whether intentionally or not, was to bridge 2 worlds that rarely, if ever, speak. She brought the lived experience, the personal stake, the human story from our television screens into a room where policy is made. She reminded everyone that behind the labels and the luxury, these are women with histories, with causes, with a voice that can travel far beyond the soundstage. In an era of deep division, her presence there was a quiet, powerful statement. Your platform is what you make it, and sometimes making it means trading the confessional chair for a seat in history. But while Angie was navigating the solemn silence of political protocol, another housewife was learning that in the glittering world of Hollywood, silence can be the loudest insult of all. Bronwyn, the snub heard round Sundance. From the marble halls of Washington, we travel to the icy, indie-chic lanes of Park City, Utah, home of the Sundance Film Festival. This is a world of whispered deals, coveted invites, and social hierarchies more complex than any housewife seating chart. And here we find Bronwyn, the philanthropist, the art collector, the woman of serene elegance, facing a social slight so potent you could feel the temperature drop through the screen. Now, to the younger generation, a snub might be not getting a like on a post, but you and I understand the profound language of a social snub, the averted gaze, the closed circle of conversation that doesn't open, the invitation that never arrived. At an event like Sundance, where perception is currency, being overlooked is a public declaration of irrelevance. And for a woman like Bronwyn, who moves in circles of high society and philanthropy, this wasn't just a bad night, it was a potential shift in her entire social capital. But here's the surprising inspiration in this moment of frosty rejection. Bronwyn's composure was magnificent. There was no meltdown on a snowy street, no scene. Instead, we saw a woman processing a very public, very personal slight with a dignity that spoke volumes. It was a masterclass in how to handle humiliation without letting it define you. It reminded us that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is not a retaliatory post or a leaked story, but a straight back, a calm demeanor, and the quiet knowledge of your own worth, even when a room full of people seems to have forgotten it. And speaking of frost, while Bronwyn was weathering a social cold front in Park City, another fire was starting back in Salt Lake, sparked not by a snub, but by something seemingly innocuous and unbelievably cold. And so we arrive at the spark that lit the prairie fire, Ariana. In the aftermath of personal betrayal and public heartbreak, Ariana has become a symbol of resilience for many. But this week, she discovered that the court of public opinion can turn faster than a castmate's allegiance. The culprit? A piece of jewelry, a necklace, or perhaps a charm, boldly spelling the word ice. Now, on the surface, to our eyes, it might seem absurd, a fashion choice causing national outrage, but context, as they say, is everything. In Ariana's story, ice has been a motif, a symbol of her emotional fortress, her cold dismissal of the past, a personal emblem of strength. But in the broader, volatile landscape of social media, symbols are never just personal. ICE is also the acronym for a government agency entangled in deeply painful, politically charged national debates about immigration and family separation. And here lies the breathtaking, almost fearful lesson of our digital age. Your personal narrative can be hijacked by the collective narrative in a heartbeat. Ariana's intent to wear her ice as a badge of survival was instantly drowned out by the roar of a public that saw not a woman reclaiming her power, but a woman being shockingly insensitive to a monumental human rights issue. The backlash was swift, brutal, and all-consuming. It was a stunning reminder that in 2024, there is no such thing as a private symbol. Once you put it out into the world gets to decide what it means. And that decision can be a wildfire. So there you have it. 3 women, 1 unimaginable week. A political audience, a Hollywood snub, and a jewelry miscalculation. But what does this spectacular trilogy of chaos really tell us? What is the surprising, perhaps even inspiring thread that connects Angie's solemn step into Congress, Bronwyn's silent stand in the snow, and Ariana's explosive fashion miscalculation? The answer is not what you think, and it reveals something fundamental, not just about reality television, but about the very world we're all living in right now. Stick with me, because the conclusion is where this story truly catches fire.